So can I just say before we jump into today's video that for the past 2 seasons I have somehow managed to wrongly predict who will be the winner of the Championship playoff final. 2 seasons ago I was predicting Reading to beat Huddersfield, and then last year I predicted Aston Villa to beat Fulham. So if this sort of Ben HD curse does continue into this year's playoff final, I apologise to whoever I predict to win in today's video. But we are back and we've got a big weekend coming up. On Monday we do have the Championship playoff final as well. Over the weekend we've got the League 1 and League 2 playoff final, which I will be predicting in today's video as well. But as always, I'm interested to know what you guys have to say, so make sure you do get your score predictions in the comments down below. And speaking of your score predictions, I will include your comments on screen now if any of you did successfully manage to get any of your second leg score predictions correct. So fair play to everyone, we will be discussing those games throughout this video. And let me tell you, we have a lot to talk about. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like, it is always massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, let's hop into my predictions. So we are finally here at the big one, Aston Villa going up against Derby County. I'm very interested to see which way you guys are swaying for this one. Probably coming into it, Aston Villa are the favourites, but we'll talk first of all in terms of what sort of game I'm expecting to unfold at Wembley. Traditionally, both these sides throughout the season have been quite attack oriented. Neither of them are really accustomed to sitting back. However, when you look at the history of the playoffs over the last 10 or so years, history would suggest that this is probably going to be another quite low scoring match. 5 of the last 6 Championship playoff finals, there's been 1 goal or less. Last time there was more than 1 goal scored in the playoff final in the Championship was all the way back in 2015 when Norwich beat Middlesbrough by 2-0. And the last time both sides scored in the playoff final in the Championship was all the way back in 2012 when Blackpool went up against West Ham and West Ham walked away with a 2-1 victory. And so for those reasons, I do have the impression that this game will be a really tight one with not a lot in it between both sides. As much as I would like to see a really thrilling game of football, I think both sides won't want to give away much. In terms of how both sides got to Wembley, Aston Villa just about managed to get past West Brom after the first leg they'd had, managing to win that one by 2-1. Coming into the second leg, a lot of Villa fans were fairly confident with West Brom having Dwight Gale out suspended. It wasn't the best performance from Aston Villa. I've got to say, throughout the playoff campaign, Villa's performances haven't been up to the standard of how they were playing during that unbeaten run, in my opinion at least. You know, in the first half they had at Villa Park, they weren't really going anywhere with all the possession they were having. In fairness, they managed to unlock West Brom eventually in the second half. But then in the second leg at the Hawthorns, I also didn't really see Villa put their authority onto the game like I have done throughout the season. And even when West Brom went a player down and had to play with 10 men throughout extra time, Aston Villa weren't really carving out that many opportunities. But they managed to come up when it matters and they kept their bottle for the penalty shootout, Jed Steer being the hero of that one in the end. And to be completely honest, it's not really about performances at this point, it's all about results, and Aston Villa have managed to do that. And then of course we had the absolute bonkers game going on between Derby and Leeds United. Now, a lot of people, you know, the vast favourites to get into the playoff final out of that playoff semi-final were going to be Leeds United after they won the first leg at Pride Park. Going back to Ellen Road, a lot of people thought, you know, myself included, that they would manage to get the job done. They went a goal up in that game, they were 2-0 up on aggregate, but then there was an awful mix-up between Casilla and Cooper on the edge of the box. That led Derby to get back into the game, and in the second half, absolutely everything was kicking off. There were goals flying in, people being sent off, controversial decisions all around. It was an absolutely enthralling game of football, but Derby did come through it against all odds really, and what a season it has been for them and Frank Lampard in his first season in management. And that never say die attitude I think will serve them well going into a playoff final. Derby can play on the fact that they are the underdogs going into this one with how the whole season has panned out. And I do think that Derby can use that to their advantage as well. If you look at the performance from Derby against Leeds in that second leg, I'd suggest they probably did play better than how Villa played against West Brom. It's also worth noting though that a lot of this Villa squad will have experience. They got to the playoff final, came up against Fulham, but lost that game by 1-0. Now, the core of that squad, you know, will have been in and around the dressing room that day, and they'll want to learn from their mistakes going into this one. And the last time that Derby found themselves in the playoff final was back in the 2013/14 season when they were beaten by QPR by 1-0. So one side is going to put things right at the weekend. And I have to be honest, if I had to put a prediction on what I think is going to happen in this game, I'm going to say it's going to be 1-0 to either side. I don't think that either team will steamroll the other, and I do think it will be genuinely quite close. In terms of Derby, they are going to be missing Scott Malone for this game after he was sent off in the second leg against Leeds. That will mean that Ashley Cole is probably going to be coming in and filling that left back role. Probably the most interesting thing about Derby coming into this game is who Frank Lampard decides to play up front. Whether he does go for sort of a 2-striker formation or he does go for that single figure up front. When I'm recording this video, it's still not clear if Martin Waghorn will be back in time, but the question I ask to Derby fans is if Martin Martin Marcon is back, would he go straight back into your starting 11? I'm interested to see what system he goes for in general, really, whether he does go for a 3 up top or he goes for a diamond in midfield with 2 strikers playing. And then in terms of the Aston Villa side, that team at the moment going into Wembley on Monday probably picks itself, really. There's only maybe 1 or 2 positions that are up for grabs, you know, maybe on the wing, whether you go for someone like Albert Adoma for the experience or Andre Green, even Kodra out wide maybe. But you'd be expecting to see the midfield 3 of Grealish, McGinn and Hurahandel look to have a lot of control in this game. Probably I'd expect Villa to have a little bit more of the ball. Maybe that'll result in Derby playing a little bit deeper, but I've probably seen the best football that Derby play this season when their side is pushed a little bit higher up the pitch. That battle in midfield could be where the game is won or lost. Jack Grealish and John McGinn are 2 players who you can't allow to have a lot of time on the ball. And then someone like El Ghazi or Abraham going forward is always capable of creating that small moment of magic to win it. Aston Villa can also take confidence from the fact that they have already done the double over Derby so far this season. They've beaten them 3-0 away from home and 4-0 at home, so they beat them 7-0 on aggregate over the season so far. Jack Grealish scoring an absolute wonder goal in the game they had at Villa Park as well, when the ball was swung in from the corner and he hit it from the edge of the box on the volley. Although saying that, I was saying a very similar thing with Derby going up against Leeds in the playoff semi-finals. Leeds had done the double over Derby in the regular season, however Derby came out victorious in the playoffs. If this game does go to penalties, both sides have won penalty shootouts this season. We saw Villa do it in the playoffs and we've seen Derby do it in the FA Cup. And let's be real, who doesn't love a penalty shootout? I would like to see this one go to penalties, although that would be an absolutely devastating way to lose the playoff final. But in terms of my actual prediction for this one, like I say, I do think it's going to be a very close one. I am just going to fancy Villa for a 1-0 victory. I'm going to say they'll do it in extra time as well. I think that it will take them quite a while to get past Derby. Derby very capable of scoring, you know. We saw it against Leeds. They were absolutely fantastic when they were fluidly going forward on the counter-attack. And if they can reach those same performance levels at Wembley and Villa aren't quite at it, like we've seen them not really be at their best throughout this playoff campaign so far, then Derby are definitely still in with a shout, no doubt. I'm going to say 1-0 Villa though. I think they will bounce back after their playoff defeat last season and it should be a good game. I'm really looking forward to it. FIFA said that it's going to end 1-1 after regular time and then Derby are going to walk away with a win on penalty. So it should be a really fascinating one. Get your score predictions in the comments down below. Also, before we do wrap up the video, I will give you guys my predictions for the League 1 and League 2 playoff finals. So in League 1, we've got Sunderland going up against Charlton. This one should be a good game. We've already seen Sunderland lose at Wembley, obviously in the Johnson's Paint Trophy. They lost against Portsmouth. They'll be hoping to right that wrong. Sunderland's probably problem throughout the season has been they've drawn too many football matches. I've got to be honest, I've not watched all too much League 1 football, but I have been watching the playoff campaigns of both sides so far. Sunderland managed to get through Portsmouth 1-0 on aggregate, and Charlton beat Doncaster 4-3 in really dramatic circumstances. That second leg was an absolutely cracking game of football. I think this one will maybe be a little bit more open than what we see in the Championship, and for a prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and then I'm going to say that Sunderland will win on penalties. And then in League 2, we've got Tranmere going up against Newport County. Tranmere managed to get past Forest Green in the playoff semi-finals, beating them 2-1 on aggregate, and Newport got past Manfield after beating them in a penalty shootout. Probably a lot of the eyes for this game are going to be on James Norwood, the striker for Tranmere Rovers. So far this season, he's been able to score 30 goals. He's averaged a goal every 141 minutes. And quite similar to League 1, I've not paid too much attention to League 2 this season, but I have been keeping my eye on both sides' playoff campaigns. For this one, I'm going to say that Tranmere will win it by 2-1. So at the end of the week, it'll be interesting to see how many of these predictions I have got correct. Let me know down below what you guys are thinking for them. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you did go on to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you do get your score predictions in the comments down below for a chance to be involved in the next video. Make sure to check out all the other links in the description down below. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.